inquiry session 2, covering the effects of the proposal on the setting of Dunskeag. At the beginning of the inquiry, I'd made a number of detailed remarks about the proceedings, which I don't intend to repeat. Safe to say, please remember to mute your microphones when you're not speaking. Please keep your videos on if you're involved in the cross-examination process and off if you are not. During the course of today, we'll aim to take a break of about 5 minutes around about each hour. It can be quite challenging with the length of screen time, as we all experienced on Thursday. So we'll try and get a break about 11 o'clock and about 12 o'clock, and we'll take an hour for lunch around 1 o'clock. If we're still needing time at that juncture, I'll check where everybody is and how much time they think they need. We're prepared to be flexible, and we'll take soundings on that at the time. Is anybody expecting a test of their fire alarms at any point today? No? Okay. Neither are we. 3 preliminary matters for me. Mr. Innes, I'd be grateful, please, if you could just update us. Last week, I think Ms. Kelly Anderson had been in a process of completing a table of distances that she'd intended to submit. My apologies in advance if this has already been submitted and it just hasn't got to us yet. Perhaps you could just give us an update on where things are with that.
Yes, sir. The table has been submitted. I think it was submitted on Thursday. On Thursday afternoon.
That's fine. In that case, it's working its way to us. There was a public holiday on Friday, so it might be that it's just been passed to us by the case officer. So thank you very much for that. Mr. Milne, last week under her cross-examination, Ms. Baisden referred to a UNESCO document, and I believe to a paragraph or a section 88 of that. And I think she mentioned that it had not been submitted. We'd had a quick flick through the core document list, and we couldn't find anything that seemed to match that description. And I just wanted to check with you that definitely hadn't been submitted by HES, and whether you were aware whether it was on the list, and if not, would you be able to submit that, please? Oh, sorry, yeah.
Thank you, sir. It has not been submitted, so you're right, it's not on the core document list, but of course, only too happy to submit that as a late document, and I shall arrange for that to happen today.
Thank you very much. And obviously, if you can just liaise with the applicant about the appropriate reference number in the document list. I'm imagining it'll live in section 17 somewhere, but I'm perfectly happy to be told it lives in a different section. So if you can have that discussion with them, that would be great. And the third matter, unfortunately, there have been problems with WebEx that prevent live streaming. Recordings, I'm told, are not affected by this and will be available the following morning after each day's proceedings. I can understand that this may be deeply frustrating for those who want to follow in real time, and so I offer my apologies for that. This is something that's beyond our control. We're in close contact with the providers of this service, and they are working to resolve it. So the recordings are unaffected, but unfortunately it's unlikely live streaming will be available. Certainly during this week, I'll update you if that changes. Okay, so moving on to today then. On Thursday, we left Mr. Lewis of Historic Environment Scotland still as a witness under the cross-examination by Mr. Innes for the applicant. And in a moment, I'll hand over to Mr. Innes to take us through the remainder of his cross-examination. After that, if the reporters have any questions, we will then ask those, and then we will return to Mr. Milne for the re-examination process. So, Mr. Innes, over to you.
Super. Good morning, Mr. Lewis. I hope you had a good weekend.
Good morning. Thank you.
In terms of the cross-examination, I said I was fairly close to finishing last Thursday, and I have not spent the weekend dreaming up new questions and extending and going back to where we've been before. So I think we were on page 12 of your report, which is CD 11.6.2, and I'm going to start there, and I have, as I say, a relatively few number of questions, which I want to just close off with you, if I may. So if we could start off by looking at paragraph 71, please, which is about the present day association?
Yes, I have that paper copy in front of me.
Now, in terms of your overall statement here, the impression that you would want to give that there's a relatively easy monument to visit, it's promoted, and people are going there, and that's clearly the case. Is that correct?
Yes.
I think also in your correspondence, you've also lodged, court path consultations, etc. It would be fair to say that current access to the monument is not ideal, is it?
The monument is accessible. Like most scheduled monuments in Scotland, it doesn't have a car park or kind of much kind of publicized access, but that doesn't detract from the level of social value that it holds.
But I'm not disputing the social value. What I was talking about was the physical access is currently less than ideal. Having to cross a gate with a barbed wire wrapped around it, or alternatively having to hobble across potentially a dike. That isn't really ideal, is it, in terms of facilitating access?
I think it is commensurate with many monuments in Scotland. They're not all easily accessible, like and kind of presented as visitor attractions. Most monuments are, in the wilds. Some are easier to access, some are harder to access. The ability to be able to park close to this monument is there are easier monuments to park at and walk to. But on the several occasions that I visited this, I've managed to park and walk to it with a reasonable degree of ease.
Yeah, but you're a fit and young man, capable of these things. Any form of infirmness or other aspect, give the access may be more difficult given the need to try and cross a gate or jump or hobble across a dry staying dike. That's a level of movement that for some would prove a barrier.
Potentially so.
And insofar as the site itself concerned, you identify those three key features or the aspects which are scheduled. As you've identified at paragraph 14, on the site as well, there is also an Ordnance Survey trig point, which obviously is a modern intervention within the scheduled monument. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that also is visible from locations out to sea.
I think, as we discussed on Thursday, it is visible in certain locations. Obviously, we're talking about a fairly small trig point, and the further out that you get, the harder it is to pick out. But as with any trig point, that they are positioned on kind of prominent points of height within a landscape to assist with mapping.
And in terms of other features, there appears to be a commemorative cairn which has been erected within the scheduled monument, dedicated to a particular individual. Is that correct?
Yes, there is.
And that's a modern intervention, isn't it?
I think it was put in the 80s by recollection.
And then in addition to that, there's what you've described as a walker's cairn as well. Is that correct? That's beginning to be established on top of the monument.
Yes, on the top of hills, and particularly around trig points, you often get walkers' cairns. They can often be confused with archaeology. They can often be confused with, for instance, prehistoric burial cairns, which are often on the top of hills. There isn't one in this instance, but yes, so around the trig point and around the commemorative cairn, there is what you would describe as a walker's cairn. Yes.
And in terms of scheduled monuments that in part comprise what stones that have been left behind, does that not also potentially give rise to the fact that walkers' cairns may be added to by stones which are forming part of the monuments?
Potentially, and this is an issue that is seen throughout Scotland. This kind of falls within the consenting regime that we deal with. Yes.
And insofar as the only real response to something like that is potentially to have some element of signage to promote good management, isn't it? Is that the only way we can really deal with this? We can't have CCTV at every scheduled monument in Scotland, and nor can we have people enforcing people not moving matters at every scheduled monument in Scotland. So therefore, presumably the only means by which that particular aspect can be managed or controlled is through probably some form of signage. Is that correct?
Signage out with the scheduled area can assist. A kind of broader raising of public awareness can assist. There are instances where we have Historic Environment Scotland have worked proactively with landowners to assist in the removal of inappropriate additions to a monument, effectively to try and minimise the kind of cumulative impact that might be having on the reading of the site.
So taken in round, can we agree that there could be improvements both to the access and management of this site, provided that no doubt it partially involves funding and effort to make that happen?
There can always be improvements to the management of a scheduled monument. Historic Environment Scotland have a series of grant streams that can fund that. As I say, we work proactively with landowners to kind of help them do issues, kind of undertake positive management works where they are required. So yes.
We could carry on. As I say, I'm quite close to the end, so I just want to keep going. If we get to paragraph 72, I think we've discussed that. Those are your aspects that we discussed. It sort of sets a context for the passage underneath, and that's why I reference paragraph 72 of your report, because it gives a context to text underneath. And I just want to go to paragraph 74 and agree or seek your agreement to the statement. Do you agree that the monument provides the opportunity to survey and control the passage along the loch and will be visible presence in any seaward approach to the loch? Do you agree that Dunskeag is a visible presence in any seaward approach to the loch?
I'm just reading the passage now, bear with me. Yes, in fact, so that is what the applicant has contended. My next sentence is, whilst this assessment is fair and with merit. So yes, I agree that there will be effectively that the monument is a visible presence in any seaward approach to the loch, bearing in mind, of course, that there is an element of kinetic experience about this, bearing in mind that the ZTV shows that there are points within the seascape where, you know, if you're particularly close to the coast, kind of down towards Gear, then the landform is going to potentially get in the way. But as a broad statement, yes, I think that's fair.
And therefore, anyone reading the environmental statement can be in no doubt of the fact that in terms of the assessment, the consideration has been given to the visible presence of the monument in views in the seaward approaches to West Loch Tarbert.
In the assessment, the inward views were glossed over. Is my recollection. It was more to do with the outward views from the monument. So this is in the environmental impact assessment report. The kind of presence of the monument and the significance of inward views came out later on once we raised these issues with the applicant and sought visualizations from the sea and from the ferries.
Just to clear up, that wasn't the question I asked. The question I asked is, can we agree that any party reading the environmental statement will see that Dunscaig was acknowledged to be a visible presence in any seaward approach to the loch? And by that, I think anybody having any context and read it before would have been, that's to West Loch Tarbert, isn't it?
Let me just read it again. So yes, anyone reading that statement would see that Dunscaig is noted as a visible presence in any seaward approach to the loch.
Now I want to move on to paragraph 80 and 81. Just to put that in context, this is where you're coming on to the impact on Dunscaig. And you set out in 78 all the various setting issues and that may come to bear in the assessment, and then I think you bring it out as a summary in 81 of the ones that you think are most relevant. So that's how I read this section of your report.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And in paragraph 80, you say of these impacts, you say the evidence given in this report focuses on the impact of the proposed development on inward views towards the monument from out to sea. This decision is based on the professional judgment and in the knowledge that the contextual evidence set out in this report supports a position that impact of the proposed developments on inward views towards the monument from out to sea is sufficiently adverse. Well, isn't that, if I may say, the horse has got the wrong side of the cart at this point, hasn't it? You reach your conclusion and then you're going to self-justify going forward, isn't it?
I think what I'm trying to do is provide clarity in terms of the way that I'm kind of setting out that impact. Obviously, we've given our position in our objection letters and indeed in the inquiry statement, and what this report is doing is contextualizing that level of impact. So you could potentially switch those paragraphs round.
Now, in terms of the three key themes that you have that derive from that, paragraph 81 sets out three key matters that you identify, and those are derived from questions that were set out in the setting guidance at stage 3 when we're evaluating the potential impact of the proposed change. Is that correct?
Correct.
I don't think at this stage we need to turn that up, and that's the derivation of those aspects.
Yes, the items in bold at 81 are directly lifted from the managing change setting guidance, which is the key document that I'm referring to here.
And I suppose I'm just going to go briefly through each of those to set those in context, if we may. Now, in terms of the first one, is whether key views to or from the historic asset or place are interrupted. Now, I think we're agreed that this is a to rather than a from. Can we agree that?
Correct.
And the issue then comes to how we effectively deal with the word interrupted. And I'm, for this purpose, joining in your analysis. I don't necessarily accept it, but for the purposes of the cross-examination, I have to pretend to be you in part. So we're testing your case. So I'm not saying that that is our position. I'm testing your case. So in that context, interrupted, I think has a very ordinary meaning, which is it breaks the line. And in terms of cases, numerous cases that I've dealt with in terms of these matters and heritage, what it means is that effectively you're preventing the view receptor from being able to see the asset, i.e. you're breaking the chain of visibility. And that is what interruption means, is it not?
I think interruption means it does mean that. Okay, so it does mean physically putting something in front of something else so you cannot see it. It means challenging the ability to be able to see something. It means challenging the ability to be able to pick out something. And this is particularly the issue from somewhere like viewpoint C, when you're further out and when you have the waymarking function of the monument, that the ability to be able to pick it out is a key characteristic of its setting. And there you have the turbines behind and above the monument interrupting the ability to be able to pick it out. They are making it harder for Dunskeag to be picked out. No longer is Dunskeag the most obvious feature on that coastline. The turbines would be. I consider that to be an interruption. I think that this is set out in paragraph 96 of my inquiry report, where I say these visualizations show that the proposed turbines will be clearly visible on the skyline directly behind the monument in most inward views from the Sound of Dura and the Sound of Gear, demonstrating that key views to or from the historic asset or place are interrupted. The turbines would surround and appear above the monument in these views, thereby competing for dominance with and diminishing the visual prominence of the monument.
But the fundamental point is that the actual ability to physically see Dunskeag, and we'll call it Dunskeag future as a term as it is, from matters such as viewpoint C or viewpoint 13 in the environmental statement, is still exactly the same as it would be if the turbines weren't there or weren't there. The physical ability to see it is not altered, is it?
You can still see the monument. Your ability to be able to pick out its key characteristic, which is its dominance and prominence and ability to be the thing that is seen on that coast, is interrupted. And that's what I'm contending in my report.
And how you get to that with the second matter, which we'll come to deal with. But that's the point, is that when you're going to the matter, you're discussing about the dominance and the ability to pick it out in that context. Now that has a separate, as it were, question to answer. And I'm just going to suggest to you that it's that trying to read words into matters does not assist. Simply putting, interrupted is a very simple concept, and it is the ability that actually physically you break the line. And once you start suggesting it's other matters, you're starting to get fused with visual impact and dominance, which may well be relevant, but it's not the physical interruption. That's it's clearly a very specific effect.
I think in the context of this, it is the interruption of the ability to perceive what is key in that view. So I stand by what I've written in this report.
In quite a lot of cases where we can look, I don't want to go into the detail of Burney now, but in that particular context, with the significant numbers of various Iron Age forts surrounding the development, at certain points there's a precise description which is raised that the particular development means that the turbines got in the way and physically interrupted the view from particular locations of the particular monuments. And that's recorded, and they're also recorded by Historic Scotland as it was then. It might just be on the cusp. 214, we're right on the cusp. I think probably before, probably Historic Scotland identified that those particular effects of blocking the view was one that they brought to the attention in their letter of advice. And I just suggest to you that if you're confusing these matters, it then undermines and devalues that particular aspect, which is obviously a very particular effect on the potential setting of a monument, where one is actually blocking and interrupting the physical view from potential receptors to the monument.
As you say, they're very different cases. In this case, the turbines are interrupting a key view, a view that forms a key characteristic of the monument's setting.
So I'm going to then deal with the third aspect, which is the one about the ability of the setting to absorb new development without eroding its key characteristics. In terms of a general proposition, this type of phraseology is very often used in landscape and visual assessment. Are you aware of that?
Do go on.
I was just asking if you're aware of that.
My specialism isn't landscape and visual assessment. So my specialism is setting and schedule monuments. So I'm not always aware of the precise nuances now.
So in terms of, and again, I don't want to, unless you want to, I think we might have to, can we look up CD 7.3, which is the setting guidance at page 11, please?
I'm on page 11, yes.
I think sometimes it's always quite helpful to get the context for the particular passage. And in that context, what we have, we see on page 11, there's a couple of top bullet points, but the third sort of dash down there's a statement that the magnitude of the proposed change relative to the sensitivity of the setting of an asset, and then it goes another hyphen. Sometimes relatively small changes or a series of small changes can have a major impact on our ability to appreciate and understand the historic asset took place. Points to consider include. So in that context, what that particular passage is identifying is that some assets are less robust than others in terms of their ability to accommodate change. And then it goes on to say, and here's some of the matters which we suggest you can take into account when considering that particular aspect. Is that correct? To look at this.
Yes.
So in the context of factors that might be viewed as reducing an asset's ability to accommodate change, can we just perhaps consider some of those? So if I had an asset that was in a really constrained landscape, say in a valley, and it only had one view out, and that was a designed-in view, very particular to the asset, designed in. So the asset had been designed in a way to look one way down a valley. That was the only view it had, and I proposed to put turbines between the asset and the view, the wider view that particular asset have. Is that not the classic example of where an asset would have a very small ability to accommodate change?
If that outward view from the monument was considered to be the key characteristic of its setting, then potentially change to that key characteristic would have a it could have a significant adverse impact on its setting. Obviously, this is a hypothetical example, and without knowledge of the monument type that you're thinking of here, it's difficult to give to give a particular answer.
But I mean, that's exactly the same for any assessment type methodologies, because when we set the methodology, we're not dealing necessarily with the specifics. We're trying to understand what factors might give rise to a monument with a lower sensitivity change. Really what this is about. This is what this, we're not at the effect, we're understanding the ability of the monument before we understand what the effects are. We're saying, you know, is this a monument where we've only got one view, it's a key view, therefore any change to that single key view may be of a higher order of magnitude than a monument with far greater ability and robustness to accommodate change without altering the character and nature of the surroundings around it. Have a meaning, and if you can't put a meaning on it, that seems to be quite concerning. So this must have a meaning, what we're talking about, the ability to accept changes.
I think this is actually set out in paragraphs 88 and 89 of my inquiry report. It's probably worth me just actually reading out for the purposes of the inquiry. So paragraph 88, so this deals with key characteristics of those elements of the setting that contribute considerably to the cultural significance of the monument, and can include elements such as important views, relationships, and sense of place, which will be different for every monument. Developments that would harm the integrity of the setting are changes that would decrease one's ability to draw on that relationship in understanding, appreciating, and experiencing the monument. Thus, for a monument to retain the integrity of its setting, Hess considers that there are key characteristics of the overall setting of the monument that must remain intact and undiminished. Paragraph 89. Whilst some developments may have an adverse effect on the setting of a monument, if they do not diminish one or more of the key characteristics, then they are unlikely on their own to affect the integrity of the setting and diminish the cultural significance of the monument. Conversely, and this is I think what you were maybe what you were trying to seek my answer to in the question. So conversely, a development which alters one or more of the key characteristics, brackets, by disrupting or distracting from an important view or sense of place, for example, will have an adverse impact on the integrity of that setting and diminish the cultural significance of the monument, as it would reduce the ability to understand, appreciate, and experience the monument in its setting. And then the paragraph goes on to effectively say it's professional judgment. So in the example that you were giving, if that outward view from the monument is a key characteristic, and potentially like the key characteristic of its setting, then a turbine in that view that disrupts or distracts, or indeed interrupts, would potentially have an adverse impact and would have an impact on its cultural significance.
See, the difficulty, Mr. Lewis, is that when you describe this, you're actually going round in circles. What you haven't said is what is ultimately the ability to absorb change. What you're going to is the effects, and saying, amassing them together in a grouping. I'm going to suggest to you, perhaps looking at it this way, Dunscaig, in terms of its key characteristics, is an extremely robust monument in the sense of it has where it needs to, at the mouth of West Loch Tarbet, it has a prominence and a dominance, which I put to you can accommodate, for example, the construction of major developments in a new house and garden ground immediately at its foot to the north, and it doesn't actually alter the strength or power of Dunscaig at that particular location in terms of its ability, demonstrating its strong ability to absorb change without eroding that key characteristic? Is that not quite a good example of how robust this particular scheduled monument is in terms of that key characteristic? And I've chosen that characteristic. Do we agree that that application, it has a strong degree of robustness in relation to its ability to accommodate change in and around it without losing its key characteristic there? Can you agree that?
I think in terms of inward views, the use of the house at its foot is actually a fairly poor example, because that does not kind of challenge the ability of the monument to be dominant and prominent in the inward views from out at sea, whereas the proposed Sheirdrim turbines above and behind it would. So yes, it has a robust setting in terms of its place within the landscape and its kind of in terms of its outward views, but in terms of its inward views, actually, it's fairly sensitive, which is why we're here.
Well, that may not be why you are here, but in terms of the description, you agree that in its setting it has a robustness. That's the description you used. It is robust.
Yes.
I don't think that's far away from what I was describing to you in terms of you can do what you like around the base. It doesn't seem to make any difference to the strength of effectively Dunskeg at that particular point in terms of where the house is visible, etc. Because the monument is robust. Can we agree that?
It can accept some development around its base without eroding its key characteristics.
And it's also, and we'll come to further to see, and in terms of it's also got a wind farm that's been developed behind it already, and I would suggest that again demonstrates the robustness, because you haven't suggested that as a consequence of that development, it is a less robust monument, have you?
Are you referring to the Freesdale turbines? Sorry, Mr. Innes, which turbines are you referring to in terms of the wind farms around it?
Mr. Innes, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
That's fine. I think Mr. Lewis was just checking with you whether it was the Freesdale turbines you were asking about or whether it was something else.
No, Freesdale, and in the context of you being able to see Freesdale turbines from out to sea in proximity to the hill.
In terms of those inward views from out to sea, the Freesdale turbines can be seen in some of those views out to sea. They are smaller and further away than the proposed Sheirdrim turbines would be, and in the kind of if you're approaching from sea from kind of north of Gear, the Freesdale turbines are off to the left of the monument and appear smaller and less prominent than the proposed Sheirdrim ones, as the visualizations show. And indeed, once you get closer to the base of Dunskeg, so sort of in the vicinity of point B, I think from recollection, the Freesdale turbines, because they are that much further away, they drop out of view.
Now, I'm going to come and look at the middle one now, which is the proposed change would dominate or detract in a way that affects our ability to understand and appreciate the historic asset. And insofar as you've referenced this, you in discussions already this morning have talked about the viewpoint C with the turbines above the hill, and also possibly you'd be describing that from the viewpoint 13 from gear. Is that correct?
That's fair enough, yes.
So in terms of that particular relationship, it's clearly one that you have partially focused on. The issue there is that effectively the monument at viewpoint C or from gear or the hill, Dunski, at viewpoint C, you're having to describe that you could make it out because of different coloration of landform. And in relation to viewpoint viewpoint 13 from gear, as we'll probably go and have a quick look at, again, in the wider landscape context, I would suggest to you that the prominence of Dunski, the landform, has by this stage become significantly reduced. And to the extent, and I'm just going to put it to you, that in that wider landscape, it no longer has a prominence.
I think that the visualizations from point C and indeed from viewpoint 13, if you are looking at that Kintyre coastline, that kind of undulating Kintyre coastline, and you are looking for the thing that is different, you're looking for the thing that sticks out, you're looking for the thing that is perhaps most prominent, I would argue, as the visualizations show, that Dunski is that thing that sticks out more than the remainder of the coastline. Therefore, it is more prominent than the remainder of the coastline.
Can we have a quick look at CD 1.9.17C, please? In fact, we'll start off with that.
Would you be able to just repeat that reference for us, please?
Yes, it's the 1.19, sorry, 1.9.17.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have 1.9.17C in front of me.
And I think I want you to go a couple forward to the 733A, which is the wider context piece. Have you got the base photomontage with the underlying wire lines?
733A is not on that document.
No, it's the one before, I think. There are two, aren't they?
So 1.1.17B.
Yeah, I'm dealing with hard copy, so I'm
Of course.
I think it's 733A.
I'm looking at figure 7.33A.
Can we? Just in looking at this, can we agree that when it's put in its wider context, Dunski is not prominent in this wider context view?
No.
It's not.
I think it is prominent in this wider context view.
So the fact that there are hills behind that are higher, the fact that there's landform directly off to the east from the landform that has got landforms and looks to have things on top of it. If I come to the high constellation wind farm, if I look up there, do I see landform that looks to have features on the top of it? It's hard to make out what those are, but there seems to be other landforms with features in this view, are there not?
There are indeed. There's a range of landforms in that view. in my professional opinion, I read Kintyre mostly as an undulating coastline. Dunskeag is prominent. In fact, the wee bit of landform kind of in the vicinity of Dunronican has an element of prominence. There's something weird going on with the Knapdale skyline. I think it's to do with the photo montage. That might be tree cover actually. But in that view, I read Dunskeag as the thing that sticks out on that Kintyre coastline.
Dunronican doesn't. And it's got a landform which, again, you've identified as standing out.
So Ronican itself is down by the shore. I'm just trying to. I'm to zoom in to pick it out now. Don't have to do that with Dunskeag.
Form to the south of it, isn't there?
My apologies, I'm mistaken. I'm not picking out Ronican. I'm picking out a hill behind it. But yes, in my opinion, Dunskeag is prominent in that view.
And if I asked 100 people to pick out prominent features in this view, I'm going to suggest to you that the only reason you're picking out Dunskeag is because you know about it. It's simply not prominent in this view.
That does not mean that the value that this view has to its setting and the monument's cultural significance is not there just because 100 people cannot pick it out.
Try one last one. Do you accept that the prominence of Dunskeag reduces with further distance that you travel away from the peninsula?
I think that's fair enough, yes.
Do you also accept that the... No, I'll move on. I'm going to move on. In terms of matters, I just got a couple of other matters I want to just raise with you. In terms of other people's interpretation, I obviously set out that we were potentially going to reference the WOSAS response. WOSAS have responded to this application agreeing with the applicant's position on setting. Isn't that correct?
So WOSAS are a local authority archaeologist or an archaeological service. They are overworked and under-resourced and potentially fairly stretched. Having had a look at their consultation response, which is a few paragraphs in a short email, bearing in mind, of course, that their focus is on whilst they have a remit that includes scheduled monuments, their focus is on the assets that we can't deal with, which is the unscheduled issues. Having had a look at their response, they contend that there are no issues in terms of undesignated assets, and they make a comment that they agree with the outcome of the environmental report for setting issues. I suspect that is made in the full knowledge that HES's attention will be on the scheduled monument and its setting, and they are aware that we can provide a comprehensive response, which is what we did. It was several pages of objection letter compared to a couple of lines in an email.
Yeah, but don't knock WOSAS. WOSAS have, and we can see from the inquiry documents, WOSAS have been at a significant number of onshore wind farm development inquiries, where they have argued in relation to the setting of various assets that it has breached the paragraph 145 test of integrity, and indeed possibly they've been at more inquiries in Argyll and Bute than has have been in relation to this matter. Do you accept that?
Potentially so. I think the fact that we are here suggests that this one, the potential impact of Sheirdrim, we consider to be of such a significance that we are here. This is unusual for us. This is a significant impact.
So far as WOSAS's judgment is concerned, that is informed by their experience of being through recent inquiries in Argyll and Bute, and they understand the process and the thresholds. So it's not as if it comes from an uninformed position. Would you agree?
I agree. I'm also aware that they're not here to defend their position.
And in terms, finally, if I could ask you, did you input into the scoping response, which is 1711 in relation to this application?
My recollection is yes. So I have been involved in this case shortly after my colleague Alison Baisden got involved.
So in terms of what is said there, that has been influenced by you?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So I think that concludes the applicant's cross-examination of the witness. We've got a couple of questions. Karen Hay was going to ask hers first, and then I'll follow.
Good morning, Mr. Lewis.
Good morning, ma'am.
Just one question for clarification, really. In your inquiry report at paragraph 41, you referred to a NatureScot document.
Yes.
And I just wondered, do you know the date of that document? Because I couldn't find it anywhere on the document itself.
I think it is August or September this year was when the final version was published. I think there is an online version which should have a date on it if there's no date on the actual physical version that is lodged with the inquiry.
Okay, thank you. That's the only question I had, really.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning again to you then, Mr. Lewis. I have just a couple of questions for you. The first, I'm going to refer you to a number of locations in your documents, in your report, CD 11.6.2. I'm happy for you to kind of have a look for these. Paragraphs 63, 68, 69, and 70. This is on pages 11 and 12. If you had the chance to put those in front of you. Yeah,
I have, starting
okay.
with 63 is what's in front of me just now.
That's fair enough. Happy for you to skip ahead if you need to. You appear to spell Dunskeag in some of these paragraphs as a single word, and in other instances you appear to separate them into Dun and Skeag as separate words. Have I correctly picked this up, that the single word is used for the hill and the two separate words are used for the monument? Can you just clarify that? Is that an accepted convention that I should use for differentiation between the two? Have I read too much into that? Can you just talk me through that, please?
My advice would be to take a look at the OS map to kind of work out what the cartographers call it. My recollection is I would call it Dunskeag as in 2 words. That's referring to the I think that's what the schedule monument is designated as, in its 2 words. The hill itself, you often get this contraction where if something is done something, the 2 words get combined when it turns into a place name. So I would be running with Dunskeag for the monument, and Dunskeag as in 1 word as the place name. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of another.
Yes, and you've prompted me just to check to make sure that where you have done so in that instance, that it's. I was just checking to make sure it wasn't all in quotes. I think in paragraph 63, yes, the hill's name Dunskeag, you appear to identify that as 1. So I think, as I say, what I was just trying to clarify is that when you've done that, you've either quoted something or you're referring to the hill, and that you
Yes,
appear to.
I mean, for instance, in paragraph 66, I'm directly quoting, and there it's 2 separate words, but I'm lifting a quote.
Okay.
So
Right. Okay. No, that's helpful. Thank you. My second point, and this was a matter I raised with him, but I'm interested in your views on this matter as well. In CD 11.5, paragraph 5.1.1.8, I'll just give us all a moment to locate that.
So CD 11.5.
That's correct.
And the paragraph number, please.
Sorry, I'm just opening it at the same time. It is 5.1.1.8. I'll just skip to that myself. I believe that's just near the top of electronic page 47.
Got it, yes.
So in there, the applicant's witness, Mr. Morley, appeared to compare the present situation with Freesdale and the Sheirdrim proposal and contrast each with viewpoint 13 and the ferry view from view C. And you may recall that I'd asked him just to talk me through what he was saying on that and his views. Looking at that paragraph, is that something that you agree with? Do you accept the position he takes there, or do you take a different view?
So taking the first line of that, I agree with his first line, which I think is interesting, because what that paragraph is saying is effectively that the Freesdale turbines are much more visible than the wire lines would suggest that they might be. And draw from that what you will with the Sheirdrim proposals. Let me just read the next bit. I think in terms of the kind of the middle sections, that is an observation. You know, as you move out of West Loch Tarbert and head towards point C, you do observe the Freesdale turbines, particularly as you are further out. When you're closer in, because they are smaller and further away, they drop out of view. So their impact comes into play a little bit further out. So certainly if you are closer in, there would be an instance where you would see the Sheirdrim turbines and not the Freesdale ones, because the Sheirdrim ones are taller and closer, and the Freesdale ones have dropped out of view. The Freesdale turbines do form part of the present experience of Dunskeag in its setting, not necessarily in a positive way. In terms of the seaward approaches, because they are further away, smaller, and kind of further north than the Sheirdrim ones would be, they don't necessarily kind of appear above and either side of Dunskeag in the same way that the proposed Sheirdrim's ones would in the views from the sea. So the impact I consider to be less severe than what the Sheirdrim ones would be. I'm not quite sure whether I've answered your question there, or unless I've just.
Well, I think certainly. I think in my question to him, he'd been talking about different viewing angles, and I think he appeared to suggest that from one perspective, the Sheirdrim turbines would be identifiable, but from a different one, then it would be the case that the Freesdale ones would be and the Sheirdrim ones wouldn't. And I think he was comparing and contrasting those different viewpoints. I'm happy for you to tell me that that's what you think you've answered already, or if you've got anything further to say on that, then.
I think I've broadly answered that already. There are certain, if you are closer in, I think from sort of B1 or potentially B. I can't quite recall if the Freesdale ones are visible from B, but certainly at B. Once you're closer into the base of the hill, the Sheirdrim turbines would be very much present in that view, whereas the Freesdale ones aren't. As you head further out, the Freesdale turbines come into play, but the significance of their visual impact is less severe because they are that much further away, smaller, and off to the side, compared to what the Sheirdrim turbines would be. That being said, I agree obviously with the first line of 5118, which basically says that the Freesdale turbines are much more present than in real life than actually is shown on the wireframes.
Okay, thank you for that. And then my final question for you. Both yourself and Mr. Morley appeared to agree on the sound of Jura existing between Jura and Knapdale. I accept that you have different points of view about other extents, but focusing on that one for the time being, the body of water between Jura and Knapdale. Do you believe that this body of water forms part of the setting of Dunskeag, and can you just talk me through your thinking on
that? So the body of water between Jura and Knapdale, if you're up at if you're kind of up at the top end of that, then you are much further away, obviously from Dunskeag. My focus has been on the lower end of that body of water and where it kind of spills out into the gap between Isla and Gear. Indeed, when you're at the monument, you can see out over Knapdale towards Jura and the Paps of Jura. So certainly the bottom end of the kind of body of water between Jura and Knapdale forms very much part of the setting. And indeed, if we're considering small vessels moving down that body of water, if you're moving down from further up north and you're heading southwards towards Dunskeag, there will come a point within the Sound of Jura when Dunskeag will pop up above Knapdale, and thence you enter into its setting.
And so for you then, just thinking about that final point that you made, does the setting begin at the point that you see it? Were you in a small craft traveling south along that body of water? The image that's conjured in my mind is that I'm in a small boat. I'm traveling down the body of water between Jura and Knapdale, and there is a point then at which Dunskeag comes into view. And is that the point at which you believe the setting begins and ends, if you like? Is that what you're saying to me?
I suppose that vessel's approach to setting appears at the point at which it can see it. In terms of outward views from the monument, it's set. You can see potentially further,
Okay.
but yes, if you're in a boat once you can see Dunskeag, you are within its setting. It begins to fulfill that waymarking function. It begins to fulfill that function of this is the thing that can see you and has oversight of you. If you can see it, it can see you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Okay, that concludes questions from the reporters. I'm just looking at my clock now. That's 11:05. I think that's probably a good time for us to take a break. So if we can come back at 11:10, please, and Mr. Milne will have the floor when we do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Right, so we left off just before the break. The reporters have concluded their questions, so over to Mr. Milne now to commence your re-examination of the witness.
Thank you very much, sir. Good morning, Mr. Lewis.
Good morning.
I have just a few questions for you. I wonder if you could have in front of you, maybe you still do from your cross-examination, and that's the visualization to which your attention was directed, and that's CD 01.9.17b.
Yes, I have that visualization.
Does Dunskeag the hill have a distinctive shape in this photograph?
It does. It has this kind of conical shape. So it kind of almost looks like a little volcano in this view. And as you move around the landscape and the seascape, that kind of shape broadly extends around it. So it's got a significant drop on all sides. It's kind of like a little mini Marilyn or a mini Corbett in that it's got a drop of altitude on either side, and that is one of the things that makes it stick out from the remainder of the undulating part of Kintyre, is its distinctive shape.
Now, you've described in your evidence the function of Dunskeag relevant to its setting, one of its functions as a waymarker. Is the function of a waymarker that you would be looking for it?
Absolutely. That is, I mean, if I take you to paragraph 66, for instance, of my inquiry report, where I reference the marine pilots and I reference the fact that the hill is marked on charts as being a prominent and distinctive landward feature, you are therefore looking out for it.
Thank you. Now, while you have your report in front of you, sorry, I'm going to jump about a bit here, but it's convenient while you have your report. Could you turn to paragraph 102?
Yes, I have that.
I wonder if you could just read that paragraph, please, for me. Read it out loud.
So 102, no mitigation has been proposed by the applicant that might attempt to alleviate the impact of the proposed turbines on the setting of the monument. ATS suggested at EIA report stage that accepting a significant reduction in turbine height or the widespread deletion of turbines, there appears to be no mitigation that would reduce the impact of the proposed development.
Do you have any comment to add about access and signage, which was you discussed with Mr. Innes this morning in terms of whether it would perform the function of mitigation of these impacts that you're referring to in 102?
My understanding is that it would not mitigate the impacts. Signage and access and interpretation are HES's bread and butter. It's something that we work regularly with landowners to achieve. We have funding to be able to do it. It does not require a wind farm in order to deliver that mitigation. So access and signage would not reduce the significant adverse impact of the proposed turbines on the setting of this monument.
And then paragraph number 71 of your report, could move back a few pages, page 12 of the hard copy I have printed off. Now,
Yes.
at the very bottom of page 12, if you can find the the sentence Dunskeag is one of only 252 sites included in the Oxford Archaeological Guide to Scotland, the earliest times to 12th century AD, by Ritchie. And then there's a quote. Why do you oppose that publication?
I reference that publication because I think this really does draw attention to the fact that Dunskeag is it is a special place. It is an unusual site, and it is if somebody's writing a guide of Scotland, as indeed Ritchie and Ritchie were, this is one of only. I was going to say a handful, but you don't have 252 fingers. This is one of only a selection of sites that made the cut as kind of meriting attention. Bearing in mind, of course, there are 250,000 known archaeological sites in Scotland. Ritchie and Ritchie are picking out 252 of them, and Dunskeag is one of them. That merits noting.
There was a discussion between you and Mr. Innes this morning about WOSAS and the absence of objection in relation to impacts on Dunskeag. Do you know what the position of Argyll and Bute Council is regarding impacts on the setting of this scheduled monument?
I understood that Argyll and Bute Council objected, based in part on our advice.
On Thursday, during your cross-examination, a comment was made about reliance by Historic Environment Scotland on landscape and visual impact assessment materials. Can I take you to the additional information, CD 01.9.1, please? And have a look at page 3, numbered page 3, introduction.
Yes, I'm at that page.
Now, for speed, I'm just going to read out, it's very small here, but number 3 of the introduction. Additional environmental information was submitted to Historic Environment Scotland in early 2020. The additional information relates to queries received from HES regarding potential significant impacts on the Dunskeag Dunsand Fort scheduled monument, and comprises, first bullet point, a letter dated 23 April 2020, accompanied by 2 larger formats of the wirelines and panoramic photographs originally provided in the EIA report, Technical Appendix 7.6, from points B and C as representative locations of views from the monument from the sea. Are you aware as to the basis on which those viewpoints were originally submitted? Were they submitted in support of the LVIA chapter of the Environmental Impact Assessment Report?
My recollection is that the ferry route wireframes, so the Arran ferry and the Isla ferry and the various points from it, they came in an LVIA chapter, because initially there wasn't any visual assessment from the sea, and these visualizations were observed in the LVIA chapter. So the applicant was asked to expand upon those in order to assist us with our assessment of this application.
And a statement of agreed matters has been entered into between the applicant and Historic Environment Scotland. I wonder if you could have that in front of you, CD 14.3. And I'd be
Okay, I have that, yes.
grateful if you could please read out for the inquiry under matter 5, 3.1.16 and 3.1.17.
Matter 5, sorry, just find the right page. Which quotes, sorry?
3.1.16 and the following paragraph 17.
Okay, so 3.1.16. It is agreed that the information submitted by the applicant in support of the EIA application was sufficient to inform determination of the application in respect of heritage. And 3.1.17. It is agreed that the additional information dated November 2020 with the core document reference number and the cumulative impact from July 2021 supplied by SLR Consulting and submitted to HES has been prepared to a suitable standard and is reliable for purposes of discussion during the inquiry.
And then just a few final questions. Mr. Lewis, I think parties are agreed that key characteristic of the setting of the monument is its relationship with the sea. Just to confirm, is your position that just now, without the introduction of the development, it remains possible to interpret, understand, appreciate, and experience the monument as a clear statement of dominion and control by its inhabitants over the surrounding waters and lands, and as a way marker from out at sea to guide the sailor to the entrance to West Loch Tarbert, which Dunskeag marks?
At present, yes.
Sorry, stop. Don't answer that, Mr. Lewis. Sorry, madam, I've sat through this re-examination and I've been pretty patient. The numerous questions have been what I can only describe as exceptionally leading. That reached a new scale of exceptional reading in terms of leading the witness to a conclusion. We're here to get the witness's evidence, not how Mr. Milne would want to formulate the witness's evidence. Generally speaking, if the answer can be a yes to a question in re-examination, the question is not being phrased in an open way and is effectively being driven towards a particular course of action in terms of a conclusion. And the reason why we do not permit these closed questions in re-examination is they effectively become the advocate's evidence, and the witness is generally said to just say yes and add a bit more. And it is not allowed to lead in that way, and the question should have been phrased in an open way to get the witness's evidence, and that's why I object. And as I say, I don't object to all leading questions, but that really did take, in terms of, went over the threshold of what is appropriate in re-examination.
Mr. Milne, what have you got to say about that?
Happy to phrase the question in a different way, sir.
Okay, let's do that.
Mr. Lewis, could you please, by way of mind inquiry, read the final sentence of your paragraph 92 of your report?
So, paragraph 92 of my report, final sentence. It therefore remains possible to interpret, understand, appreciate, and experience the monument as a clear statement of dominion and control by its inhabitants over the surrounding waters and lands, and as a way marker for the entrance to West Loch Tarbert.
And this is a yes or no question, but does that remain your evidence following your cross-examination and discussion with Mr. Innes?
That remains my evidence, yes.
A discussion has taken place about from how close to shore the turbines, in your opinion, would reduce the ability to understand, appreciate, and experience. Can you tell me what your position is regarding from where geographically and to where geographically this reduction will be experienced?
Might it be helpful to refer to some visualizations? I'm just trying to find one that would help.
We
So it will be, sorry, in the absence of finding a visualization or map to hand, I forget the reference numbers. When you are in the vicinity of point B1, the proposed Sheirdrim turbines, from memory, the visualization would be appearing on the skyline to the right-hand side of Dunskeag as you view it from the sea. And from that point, as you head on outwards through B, B2 and out towards C, the proposed Sheirdrim turbines would be challenging that the ability to understand Dunskeag's prominence and dominance and its relationship with its maritime realm.
I mean, the additional information has a drawing in it. I wonder if that actually would be something that you could look at to help the inquiry. That is CD 01.9.1.
Yes, I'm in CD 01.9.1.
Where we do have B1, B, B2 and C, and we can see as we know GIA popping out from behind the box with the note in it.
Yes. So if I'm, for instance, looking at the page 17 of that document, which is the view from ferry at point B, the preceding page is the wireline from point B1. So between B1 and B, the proposed Sheirdrim's turbines come into view. At B2, sorry, at B, they, in my opinion, they challenge the dominance of Dunskeag in that view in a way that the from memory the Freesdale ones do not, because if you look at page 18, you'll see the wireframe and the Freesdale turbines are not present when you're at point B. As you move further out, so the next page, page 19, we get to B2, the Freesdale turbines come into view, and pretty much the full gamut of the proposed Sheirdrim turbines are visible just to the left and predominantly to the right of Dunskeag in that view. They are challenging, they are overwhelming the dominance of Dunskeag in that view, and that sense continues all the way out to point C, which is image number, it's page 20 of that document, and it's at this further distance that the waymarking function of Dunskeag is particularly key in terms of the characteristic of the monument's setting and the value that adds to its cultural significance. And here you have the turbines really overwhelming and challenging that.
Now, there will come a point where the remains of the monument are no longer visible. Beyond that point, does the setting continue to assist your ability to understand, appreciate, and experience? In other words, does
absolutely. Absolutely.
Why is that?
The reason for that is part of the setting of the monument is its ability to act as a way marker when you're out at sea. It's the ability to be able to be to be picked out as something different. We know from the mansion change guidance note on setting that you do not have to be able to perceive or pick out the monument for it to have a setting. We know that the key characteristic of this monument setting is its relationship with the sea. So it's outward views from the monument to the sea and reciprocal inward views from the sea to the monument. So whether you can physically see the archaeology is almost immaterial in terms of the way that the setting contributes to its cultural significance. And what we're talking about here is an impact on setting and an impact on cultural significance.
Reflecting on the journey that you took from Kennaicraig on the Port Ellen ferry, where I recollect you explained having seen the remains close up. Did that knowledge endure as you travelled further out to sea and the remains of the monument became less perceptible, became imperceptible?
I think that's fair enough to say. I mean, obviously, I started that journey at Kennaicraig on that particular kind of walkthrough. So yes, I could see that the monument was there. That memory carried with me. Had I never been to Kintyre before, and you know, I'd arrived over the sea and I'd been told to look out for the hill that sticks out on that bit of shoreline to guide me to that crossing, and look out for the monument on top of it, I would be looking out for the hill, and as I got closer, I would see the fort and the dunes. So yes, the knowledge does endure, and particularly if you have seen it, yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we conclude today, there's just a few things that I need to go through. I think for Mr. Millen and his team, this will be the final time we see you during this inquiry. You might be listening, but I think it's the final point at which you participate directly. So it's perhaps worth me reminding all parties about the following submission timescales. So I'll just do that just now. Any further written submissions covering Draft National Planning Framework 4, which is CD 7.16, could we have those no later than the end of Tuesday, 7th of December 2021, please? And any comments you may have on the further written submissions that parties have made on Draft NPF 4 by no later than the end of Tuesday, the 21st of December 2021. Closing statements and summaries of case by the Council, Historic Environment Scotland, West Kintyre Community Council by no later than the end of the 22nd of December 2021, and the applicant's closing statement and summaries of case by end of Friday 21st of January. And a reminder, please, to include summaries of case within your closing statements for the points that you're arguing. That's an opportunity to tell ministers what your case is. We appreciate that people have set those out in precognitions, but as we've been discussing throughout the inquiry, there may be points that have been conceded or matters that have arisen which form part of your case that you want to refer to. So please feel free to do that. A reminder to all other parties and to those following at home that there has been a change to the timetable. Tomorrow, Tuesday 30th of November, will begin at 09:30 with hearing session 1, as previously stated. That session will cover socioeconomic, recreation and tourism effects. We hope to complete that session during the morning. A change of programme will mean that the draft conditions session, hearing session 2, will now take place on the afternoon of Tuesday the 30th of November. We hope it would begin at 2 p.m, but that may be dictated by the length of time that the morning session takes. On Wednesday, the 1st of December, that will the session then will commence at 09:30, and there we will run the overrun session for inquiry session 1, where we will hear from the Council's landscape witness. At present, we hope to conclude proceedings within that day, but we do have available to us Thursday, the 2nd of December 2021 in the programme, should it be needed. And we'll be able to take soundings on that during Wednesday. I don't think there's anything further for me to add, so I'll say thank you all very much for today, and we'll reconvene tomorrow at 09:30. Thank you.